So the whole point of it was for him to tell Batman, like, you don't scare me. And I thought it was interesting that they took this route because Dick Grayson's Batman really isn't scary. He's too lighthearted. Welcome to Unbuckled Comics. If you're new, welcome. There's a liability form on the back table next to the little tablets with spark notes on it. That way you don't have to listen to me more than what you're already willing to. If you are returning, thank you for your continued support. I am Unbuckled Cape, the host of this comic book review podcast, and today we are going to be looking at my part two review of Batman the Black Mirror. But before we head out on patrol, let's gather some intel first. If you are thinking to yourself, hey, I really like the show, I like what you're doing, I'm picking up what you're putting down, how can I support you more? I used to have a Patreon and I don't anymore. I just couldn't keep up with the extra content. There is a way that you can support, unfortunately. I don't have a apparel that you could sport Unbuckled Comics, but there is a way that you could support Unbuckled Comics, and that is hit me up on my social medias. If you go over to linktree.com/unbuckledcomics, that's linktr.com/unbuckledcomics, you will see the litany of things that I'm involved in. Litany's probably a little bit over exaggerated, but hey, I have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Instagram is probably the one that not probably, it is the one that I'm most active on. YouTube, I am any of the current episodes come out within the same week, and then I'm slowly putting the backlog on there, as well as some other videos that you don't get through the normal podcast because, audio only here. And yeah, yeah. Oh, and yeah, of course, the Discord. There is a link to the Discord over on the link tree. And link tree links. You get it? Yeah, that's why they call it that. That's pretty cool. So if you go over there to Linktree, that's linktr.ee/unbuckled comics, you are going to get all of my links. Uh-huh, uh-huh. World's greatest detective right here. Um, so enough of that. Being dumb just for the sake of being dumb. We are going to be taking a look at, as I said, the Batman Black Mirror my part two review. If you have not heard the part one, you should go back and listen to it. If you heard part one, you're thinking you don't really want to know how it ends, you want to figure out for yourself, maybe skip this episode because I'm going to go all the whole way through the book. I'm not being gentle. I will spoil everything. Right now, what am I doing? Because I don't have a lot of podcast updates. The last couple of ones we thrown out episodes, so I'm not going to do that to you again. Other than just saying next week I have a very special guest joining me, and we're going to talk about the Hershey Comic Con. I know. I haven't mentioned it in a long time, and now I'm bringing it up again. But you guys are going to like this one. I sat down with Mrs. Kate, my wife, and we talked about Hershey Comic Con and, her not being a nerd and her views on everything that I am involved with and all that good stuff. And it was really fun. Had some good laughs and got to see some things from her perspective. The Cape Crusaders that are over on Discord, they wrote in some questions as well, so she answered all of your guys' questions. If you want to do comments on episodes, uh, Discord is the place you got to go for it. I post threads up for people to comment on. I am not very good at doing it early in the week. I typically don't think about it until the day I'm ready to record. So, um, which is what happened this week. So I do not have any kind of comments from any of our listeners because, I'm bad at my job, I guess. Um, but regardless, we have that one coming out next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then what I'm reading right now is I am reading the Second Turbine Blade. Hold on, I'm gonna grab a damn book. I do this every week because I can never remember the full name of it. second stage turbine blade for the Armory Wars. I am almost done. I think I have like two or three chapters left to go. I can't wait to have that discussion with a sidekick, Captain Alcatraz from the Retrotopia podcast. That is going to be a fun episode. Can't wait for that. And then I think Long Halloween is going to be my next read. My fun personal read, I am reading Bat Driven West. It is a kind of like a mini biography. It's a real short biography on Karen Whitfield, who traveled around as the Bronze Age Batgirl with Adam West and Burt Ward. I got, I don't know, maybe another 40 pages, a little more than that, I guess. 30, and then another 50, so 80 pages, but a lot of them are pictures or blank pages, so not a long read, but so far really enjoying it. Kara joined us on the show when we were at Hershey Comic Con, and was uh, kind enough to send me a book with a nice little signature and writing in it. It said, "To Logan, I adore your love of comics. I hope you enjoy my book. Love, Batgirl, Karen Whitfield 2024." So I am working through that. And then other things I have to do or mention on the show, Patreon. I did a Patreon episode a while ago, the top 20 non-comic book movies that I felt I had to see. They were more of like cinephile, like, you know, big movies that everyone seems to have seen, but I haven't. And then a couple of them were like movies that I was really, really interested in seeing. I have knocked two off my list, Apocalypse Now, and then last night I just finished watching Gladiator. And I think at the end I might just do a ranking. I don't know if I'll make a post ranking or if we'll do an episode ranking. Not sure how I want to do that yet, but I am making notes after I finish the movie of how good I thought they were, and then maybe at the end of it, once I get through all of them, I will tie them together. But only 18 to go, so that's good. I've also started watching the Cape Crusader on Amazon Prime. I'm two or three episodes in, and I am not loving it. The art is fantastic, but the story, so honestly, I can't say I can recommend it. Maybe once I get through the whole series, we'll do a review, um, something like that. Maybe, possibly, if you guys are interested, we could do that. Aside from that, let me give way to me with the second part of our review for Batman: The Black Mirror. Right. So last week we had part one of Batman: The Black Mirror. Again, this is a Dick Grayson being Batman story, and he was taking on a like black market type auction where they were auctioning off stuff stolen from the GCPD that related to criminals like Joker's crowbar that he killed Jason Todd with, or supposedly that crowbar. And it turned into like this weird horror-esque story, and then it ends with James Gordon Jr. returning to Gotham, and we get a little bit of backstory with him, and then the whole thing moves on to uh, the Hungry City, which is a three-part story where a fantastic mystery takes place. It's the classic, who done it, but to Oracle in the but who done it, but well, it's hard to describe without just flat out saying it. Someone put an orca in a bank, like a killer whale in a bank lobby. So James Gordon goes to the Wayne's forensic lab for help. The owner of the bank is Sonia Zuko, the daughter of Tony Zuko, who is responsible for Dick Grayson's parents' murder. And as they are discussing that, Dick is very like, oh, good for her. She's straight and narrow, whatever. And he's kind of just brushing it aside. And they cut open the belly of the whale, and well, a person falls out of the belly. So that was wonderful. And it turns out that it is Sonia Zuko's assistant and childhood friend. Dick tracks down someone who may be involved and ends up in a car compactor. So he goes to like this junk car lot, and he gets trapped by gunmen, and he ends up in a car compactor and it being shut. So the guy at this car lot, he's called the Roadrunner, issue number 9, which is part 2 of Hungry City. He tells the story of when he was in Metropolis. So he was actually kind of brought up by Detective Flask, and anyone that has read Batman Year One, you know who Detective Flask is. He's not a good cop. And what they would do was when the Roadrunner was a child, Flask would give them drugs, and when a fancy car would drive by, they'd plant the drugs on the car and it would get impounded. And then Flask and his buddies would buy these really high end cars for super cheap, and then they were using that to move drugs or resell and making a big amount of money off of it. And Roadrunner tried to expand this business, and he goes to Metropolis. And he basically says that the only time he has really ever been scared is when he was working on one of these cars and all of a sudden he was 100 feet in the air with Superman looking at him saying, "You don't want to go down this road, son." Um, so the whole point of it was for him to tell Batman, like, "You don't scare me." And I thought it was interesting that they took this route because Dick Grayson's Batman really isn't scary. He's too lighthearted. And then Roadrunner also is a paraplegic. Yeah, paraplegic. Missing both of his legs. He has mechanical legs, and Batman smashes his legs, and somehow like it hurts him. Like he's in pain, so I don't know if the legs are like tied into his nerve system or how that works, but kind of weird that I thought he was in pain, but Batman, yeah, Smash Man smashing his legs to prove that he can be just as intimidating when he needs to be. Later on, Dick ends up back at GCPD, and Sonia confesses that two criminals have been putting pressure on her to handle their ill-gotten money, basically cleaning, laundering their money. Roadrunner being one, and Tiger Shark being another. Dick finds the Tiger Shark in the bay, and he has like this gigantic boat slash sub that houses orcas in the bottom of it. It's a pretty wild concept. This whole story is a little bit fantastical, to be honest. In issue number 10, Batman gets himself into deep water, pun totally intended, with Tiger Shark. Shark ends up escaping in the end, but Bat realizes the camera in the lobby had to be turned off and it was deactivated, and only someone who could know all of the systems inside and out would be able to do that, and that was Sonya. We also see, so he ends up, Tiger Shark put the orca in there, but Sonya kind of let him do it, and then she turned Batman on Roadrunner and Tiger Shark to kind of eliminate them so that they would leave her alone. So she was manipulating Batman. We also see that James Gordon Jr. is in fact a killer in what is one of the most disturbing panels I have ever seen. Ever. Like, that's no exaggeration. When I picked up this book, it was one of the few things I actually remembered from my previous reads, and I've read this a couple of times before. Um, Dick Grayson stops in to talk to James Gordon Jr. just to see if he's on the up and up. He admits that, Commissioner Gordon put him up to it, and he and James has, decent enough conversation about, somebody from their childhood. And when James goes home, he actually has that person from their childhood in the basement, and he is brutally torturing him. And it is like, I can't describe it on air because I do want this to be, not gory details of horror, and like it's pretty rough. So just, it's definitely uh borderline R rated. It's a very strong PG-13. It's pretty twisted. Issue number 11, we return to James, who seems to be doing well until Barbara tests this pill that he's been taking to kind of level out his emotions, and learn that he reverse engineered it. And Gordon deduces he is planning on poisoning the babies of Gotham City so that they all become crazy. And basically, he doesn't, like James Gordon Jr., doesn't feel normal human emotion. He just kind of like is numb to everything, which is why he's crazy the way he is. Also, Joker escapes from Arkham again. Outside of that, there's not a ton going on. So issue number 12, Barbara Senior is attacked by is attacked and everyone goes after Joker, assuming it was Joker. She is unconscious, so she's unable to tell anybody. So Bat finds him hiding in this like place in the Boweries, and Joker puts up little fight. He is less maniacal maniac and more sniveling homesick child. Joker just wants the original Batman to quote unquote play with him. He's uninterested in Dick Grayson's Batman. He begs for his return and sobs, and basically is like pleading, telling him that he didn't attack Barbara Senior, which is that like that whole thing is pretty like it seems out of characteristic for Joker, but really when you think about it, it's actually probably right in line with how he should have been acting. The person that attacked Barbara Senior, really no shock here, it was Jim Gordon Jr. Issue 13, the final issue, sees James kidnapping Barbara and torturing her, almost killing her. And it turns out he's actually after Dick Grayson, and somehow he knows that Dick is Batman. I'm not really sure how he deduced that. He orchestrated the dealer in the Black Mirror. He brought the Joker's drugs. He bought the Joker's drugs from the dealer and even saved Dick from the mob in that episode. So in the end, Dick was completely and totally just manipulated by James Gordon Jr. And in the end, like it was just so like I wasn't very high on this, but the way the final issue starts, the same way the whole trade does, and James trying to manipulate the dealer helps it greatly that everything ties together in the end. This is a good book that teeters on the horror side a handful of pages, but it's not the best Dick Grayson Batman story. I do enjoy some aspects of it, but I definitely know that there are better Dick Grayson Batman stories. The whole Joker being kind of a whiny child was a little odd. I do really like the fact that I think the dealer could have been a better villain, but I do like that James Gordon Jr. was the overall villain. And I like how they took and made him a very personal villain for Dick Grayson. And they even took Batman, like Bruce Wayne's Batman's Joker, his ultimate arch rival, and gave us a way that they scooted him aside. Like, even though I think most people going into this era where Dick Grayson was Batman was waiting for, Joker versus Batman, see how Dick Grayson handles them. And I think we do get that in one of the Batman and Robin books. But at this point, they were like, okay, let's make sure everyone knows that this is not the same Batman before Bruce Wayne actually comes back. Because if you remember, he is still, he or has returned to the living or never really died. Maybe someday we'll cover that arc. But I think that using James Gordon Jr. as one of the final villains to the Dick Grayson Batman run was such a clever idea because it makes it something really personal. Because as much as Batman, as Bruce Wayne, too many Batmans, as much as Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon are friends, Dick Grayson I was in romantic relationships on again, off again with Barbara Gordon. In this book, he and Commissioner Gordon have a really good relationship with, using that forensic lab and things like that. I think it was a great move by them to do something like that, but I just wish that like maybe the dealer was a little bit longer of a story. I wish we got a little bit more out of Sonia Branch or Sonia Zuko. It just felt like they were giving us characters and then we could have expanded on them a little bit more and then have I don't know how you do that in such a small amount of time. I mean, the pacing of the book isn't the issue. It's just that we started to get something that I liked and then it was kind of pulled away. I think this book deserves to be at least a pick it up. I don't and pick it up in the sense of like at some point you should probably read it just because it shows one, the different art styles that go through this book, and two, we get to see a different type of Batman and a different type of villain, a different type of Joker. Everything is so different from the Batman normals. Like I said, it's a leans a little more into the horror sometimes. It also gives context to what happened to James Gordon Jr. As I said in the previous episode, you know, some people don't know that Gordon has a son. Almost everyone knows that he has a daughter because she ends up being Batgirl, but not everyone knows what happened to his son, and this is great context for that. So, at some point, do read it. Like I said, this book falls firmly in the pick it up category. And until next time, guys, get out there and save the world, you bunch of heroes.